Okay, thanks for your patience, viewers. We had some technical difficulties, and we're going to get straight into the draft, looking at Damon and the cards here.
Here we go, first pick. So this is an interesting one. I know, I can see there we've got the modal double face card using the placeholder so that the rest of the table can't see what flip card was opened. So Damon here has pulled a Swarm Shambler to the front. Pretty solid.
I just wanted to jump in just before analysis began. This is actually the second pick, so we don't know what the first pick is at the moment. So
Okay, so we've missed first pick. That's okay.
Okay. It's worth noting that the card, the flip card in here is Skyclave Cleric. It's a one and a white for a 1/3 that enters the battlefield. You gain 2 life for a decent for Cleric's archetype.
Yeah, it's a very solid card. So Swarm Shambler was at the front there, but Damon's gone ahead and picked up Nahiri's Binding. Solid removal spell in white. I think that pick probably suggests to me that Damon has a white card in his pile from the first pick.
white's considered one of the weaker colors in the set.
Yeah, but it is also a part of some very powerful archetypes. I think, by itself it might be one of the weaker colors. But...
We see Damon pulling forward a Malakir Blood Priest. Now that is a pretty good card in the Cleric's deck.
Yeah, but also interesting to note here that there's a core Blade Master in the pack. That's 1 and a white for a 1/1 double striker, and it gives your other warriors, equipped warriors you control, double strike. So that's a very powerful role player in the white-red warriors deck. And I think a very strong pull into white. But Damon here seems to be looking at the Blood Priest. So.
Yeah.
Here we go. So if you see that third pick and it's the only card in black, are you more likely to take it, or is that you less likely to take it, considering that?
I think it's a solid role player in Clerics, but I actually think it's most at home in the black-red deck.
Okay.
Something just quick to note that's interesting in this set is the tension between the party payoffs and the tribal deck. So, if you look at face value on a card like that, it's a black 2-drop cleric. On face value, you'd think maybe that's most at home in the Cleric's deck, but because it's getting its synergy from you having a range of creature types on the battlefield, it actually lends itself better to the black-red party deck where you're able to have, 2, 3, 4 different party members in play and they're, drain 2, 3, 4, whereas in the Cleric deck, you're probably only going to drain 1.
Okay.
It seems the estimation of party as a mechanic and its power level has gone up as the set's gone on.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think at the start of the set, everyone was pretty cynical about how realistic it was to have 4 party members in play. And I don't think you always have a full party, but even having 2 or even 3 party members consistently gives these cards quite a large power boost, I think.
A lot of the party cards as well start out being quite strong and then only get better as the party mechanic is...
yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing. I think their baseline, the floor on that Blood Priest isn't that low. It's 2/1 that drains, for one, which is fine, So I think that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're having some technical issues with the camera again. Try and fix that up quickly.
Well, I guess we can keep talking about the party mechanic in the meantime. So what is your opinion of cards that are relatively strong but don't include a relevant party type? I'm thinking, for example, the white Felidar creature. Quite strong, or would be strong in another set, but it lacks a party.
I actually think it's a very big consideration in the set, and I think it's a big drawback to those cards. I think almost every deck, with the exception of maybe blue-green kicker and some of the other green decks, really, really want you to have at least 1, 2 party members on the battlefield, because your cards do get, a very significant power level boost from having that. And I think, particularly when you're playing a deck that's relying on that, it can be a major downside having a creature that doesn't add to that count.
For sure. And it doesn't just matter that the creature type goes in the party decks. The decks that are more linear on their creature type, the Wizard's deck, the Cleric's deck, they also care about creature types in a much narrower way.
I actually think it makes this set really interesting and deep too, and there's a lot of quite difficult considerations during the draft portion where, you might be in a Wizard deck that also has party payoffs. So you're trying to play this, push and pull balancing of your creature types, making sure that you have enough wizards for your wizard synergies, but that maybe you have a rogue or a cleric also to boost these party cards.
So it's cards like Deadly Alliance, like the premium black removal spell in the set is technically a party card.
Yeah,
And I know in a rogue's deck or a cleric's deck, if I see that card, I'm just it's
Yeah,
mine. I'm
exactly.
taking it.
I think it gets interesting though with cards like Thundering Spark Mage, for example. That's the red uncommon, 3 and a red for a 2/2, and when it's a wizard itself, and when it enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to a creature where X is the number of party members under your control. So on face value, you've got a red wizard that pings. I mean, it looks like it would be most at home in a red-blue wizards deck, but it's not the case because in a wizards deck, you're only going to have one party member. So it's only going to be dealing one, whereas in, red-black party where you're consistently having 2 or 3, it's coming in and doing 2 or 3.
Is that where cards like the Pack Beast make a lot of impact in just in any kind of deck? Because one, it's a 2/1, it can actually help filter mana, which I know for as a person who makes occasionally shonky mana bases, it's very useful.
Yeah, no, Pack Beast is a very important role player in the set. And I think one that was underestimated going into the start of the set, but it's a very important card. It's I think it was Lords of Limited who talk about it being a very important glue card.
Yeah.
So it's a card that holds a lot of these archetypes together quite strongly. And having a 2-drop that filters mana that also increases the power level of your other cards is just quite an important thing to have. And I found myself picking that card quite early and I'm being happy about it because it goes into every deck.
I've yet to see a single one in any draft I've been in
Oh,
because
really?
everyone takes it before it gets to me. I've seen it. I think actually I've seen it maybe once, and there was just like something else like, oh, I need that. I'll just take that.
That's interesting. On Arena, I found the card can go quite late. Again, drafting on Arena, I think, can give you a really skewed vision of what drafting is like and why a group like Magic Mates is so good at like improving your play.
Oh, definitely. I mean, on Arena, my experience too is I see cards tabling or going very late that I don't see here on a Monday night when we're drafting in, a pod of strong players.
I think that goes to show like the strength of the Magic Mates, because we were talking about how Jim really enjoys playing black and white decks.
Yeah.
I think what has happened as almost as a result of that is that we just don't let Jim, if we're near Jim and we can avoid it, we just don't let him play black white decks. Like we're just like, okay, cool, there's a powerful black white card here. I know I'm going to force Jim in. I'm going to let Jim into his most favorite archetype, something he's acutely comfortable with, if I just pass it along. So maybe I'll go into black white deck and then you just basically read the signal a step earlier than you would otherwise read it.
Yeah, look inside the Magic Mates meta. One thing I wanted to touch on with Zendikar as well is the spell lands. You mentioned them before, the incredibly powerful effect. How do you go about building a mana base with spell lands?
The spell lands are an interesting thing because I think on the whole in the limited community at the start of the format, everyone was very high on them, or most people were very high on them. I know I was taking them very, very early in the draft just because they give so much consistency to your deck. Just having that ability to make that choice in your opening hand of looking at a hand and saying, okay, this can be a land when I need to be a land, this can be a spell if I'm flooded, really adds another dimension in terms of the choices that you can make during the game. But I think something that's become apparent as the format has gone on too is that because this is such a synergy heavy set, sometimes consistency isn't enough. And if you're having a consistent deck, but a consistent deck that's not doing something as powerful as who you're playing against, that can be a problem. So I think as a whole, the community has come down slightly on these cards, not because they're not great, but I think just because sometimes you need to prioritize those key role player pieces in the archetype you're in and pass on the spell lands. But that's not to say I think you include every spell land you have in your deck and you're very happy to have it. But for me, they've moved down from maybe first and second pick cards to maybe, fourth and fifth pick cards.
Sure. So role fillers once you're in those colors and look.
I think so, yeah. But in terms of mana bases, I mean, if you're in a 2-color deck, they're fantastic because they make your mana much more consistent.
Yeah.
They also can enable splashes in an interesting way. Something I found myself doing is, say I'm playing blue-green and I want to splash red. If I can pick up 2 of the flip red lands, then they can not only be a red source, but if I draw my 1 mountain before I draw the flip lands, instead of suddenly drawing an off-color land, I'm drawing a spell that I can
They
play.
almost pay for themselves almost.
Yeah, so I think if you want to splash an off-color, they can actually be quite a powerful thing to have in your arsenal. We might jump to a quick break just before the camera comes back on for the draft.
Absolutely. Thank you for your
Thank you very
patience,
much.
everyone. We are going to be bringing you a hot draft very soon.